Hi. I hope y'all have been healthy and happy. I'm pretty good, all things considered. Welcome back to the show where new people say, yeah, that black person might be doing some dangerous bullshit, but why don't you ever expose the white people? Today, we got a fun and complex one suggested by one of y'all, Taryn Biggs. Please support me on Patreon so I can keep making things that don't make me that much money. This story includes 1.5 failed presidential campaigns with mostly AI ads in the second one, an ongoing black invasion of an almost entirely white, oil-rich desert town in Texas that's racking up lawsuits and is probably a thinly veiled scam, an AI R&B country record that actually kind of slaps, holy hoes, where you at? Let me know. And a small group of terminally online black people who aren't convinced to leave this movement by any of the shit I just mentioned. While Tanner has done some legitimate public service in the last 40 years, and some people might be moved by the effort to take land by force, in the spirit of reparations, he also seems to be a misguided narcissist and potential grifter by my estimation. I'll let y'all be the judge. Let's get it. This video is sponsored by Monarch Money. I appreciate the support, for real. Okay, there's a lot of ways to manage your accounts and track where your money's going. I've been using Monarch Money for the past few months or so. And here's a sample of the reasons I think it's worth switching to or starting with. First off, the dashboard is fire. I'm a big data person, so having all of it lined up in such an easy to digest way, it's hella clutch. In this one shot, we got a budget breakdown with my expenses tracked, my credit score, my net worth, spending, transactions, and recurring payments. Monarch isn't the only service giving you this info, but it's the only one I've seen with the ability to show you all of it on the home screen. You can face the reality of your terrible choices on the cash flow page. I'm literally scared to look at this right now for the past month because I just moved and it's a lot. You can look at your net worth and be like, hey, I ain't realized I had that much money. That's what's up. Don't take my word for it though, use it yourself. There's a discount with my code, KimJames50, or you can just scan the QR code. As mentioned before, I'm covering this because even though nobody watching this is gonna fall for Tanner's promos, some people already have. When I say that, I mean black people sold their property to move to the middle of nowhere, Texas, in houses with no sewer access, septic tank systems, running water, or consistent electricity, since they're using generators. I say houses, but most of them are still in RVs.
Yo. We at Love's on our way to Loving County, AKA Tanner County. Very soon. Tanner County ready. Say what's up, American. Say here.
I almost unblurred that little boy just now so y'all could see how adorable he was. I'm sorry your parents are putting you on the internet, fam. I'm even more sorry that you got to move to a desert on the word of a social media influencer.
I got all this land out here in this county.
But yeah, this video also needs to show up when people Google this man, since nobody reads anymore. If you haven't heard Tanner's name before, you're either not on Facebook at all, or you're not following middle-aged black people with a lot of time on their hands. I'm in that first group, and I'm still kind of upset that I had to get back on Facebook to investigate this. Taryn, I blame you. I like to let people describe themselves to open my coverage up, so we're gonna check out this long bio he typed up at the end of 2024. First, this doctor title. I've already exposed one person with hella fake doctorates this year who threatened to sue me, so let's get it out the way. Malcolm claims to hold a doctorate of divinity, which is not an academic degree. It's almost always an accelerated life experience degree with no real work behind it. I want to be super clear that in the United States, a DD or DDIV degree is honorary ex officio. And in the case of business gurus, it's always issued by an unaccredited religious institution or a scam university. Any legitimacy it could hold only applies to religious work and instruction. And Tanner isn't even doing that. He also never names the institution he got the degree from. He says he pursued higher education and earned a doctorate in divinity, which shaped his leadership and community-focused approach to life.
My name is Dr. Malcolm Tanner.
Malcolm Tanner is not a doctor, and that's why I won't be calling him one. Let's run through his other accomplishments real quick. These are all according to him, because the documentation isn't accessible for some or most of it. He claims to be an entrepreneur, philanthropist, educator, and federal politician. At least one of those is a lie. Running for federal office twice doesn't make you a federal politician. It makes you a professional campaigner. He calls himself a visionary, known for his philanthropic work in marginalized communities and ambitious political policies aiming to create systemic change in the US. We'll take a look at those later. He says he became a duplex landlord at 17, launched a car lot business at 20, founded Tanner and Tanner Ice Cream at 22, opened Club TNT at 24, dope name, expanded the ice cream business to Florida by 27, and opened Tanner and Tanner Produce there. I'll note that I haven't found evidence that any of these businesses exist. They might, I just haven't found them. He retired at 30 and apparently bought himself a mansion. He also had 11 kids in 19 years, saying he's a single parent to all of them. I don't know the particulars of this man's relationships, and I won't speculate. If he's raising his kids and not disrespecting their mothers, more power to him. Let's look at some of the positive things he's done for marginalized communities, though, because that list is considerable. He's originally from Indiana, and there's video proof of him giving Black kids presents in the South Bend community as Black Santa back in 2016. He said he was handing out toys all day long until the sun went down, door to door. That's solid, and I salute him for investing his resources in those families and taking the time to do that. The next accolade is Making Black Millionaires, a program he says he started in 2019 when he was 34. He claims this was designed to equip Black people with the skills and knowledge to build generational wealth in real estate and entrepreneurship. I can't find any proof that this existed, but I did find this promo for a wealth building seminar during his transition to giving people homes in 2024, where he was charging $1,000 tickets to teach people how to acquire property without credit at a price of $500 or less. He was running this entire community at a Clubhouse, which I looked into, and there's no evidence for anything significant ever taking place there. The Melanated People of Power University he supposedly founded on Clubhouse also doesn't exist anymore, I guess. But touting this Clubhouse University as some kind of accomplishment is already ridiculous. When I tell y'all I hate Clubhouse with a passion,
Come here, camera.
You got the Grand Davis.
Didn't I tell you my necklace? What are you doing with my necklace? You want a beating? Go to your room before I hurt you, son.
suffice to say, I'm not going to be using anything I overheard in a Clubhouse discussion as evidence in this video. Back to that wealth building seminar. I can confidently say that this price point, combined with the community he was marketing it to, is either a grift or an act of desperation to keep funding his wildly expensive RV settlement by community fundraising. We'll leave that door open for now. The organization he started is called Melanated People of Power, or MPOP, which is where that fake university's name came from. I'm gonna call him MPOP because it reminds me of that boy band, Hanson. Nobody who isn't a millennial is gonna know who the hell I'm talking about. I got force-fed that song as a kid. I'm sure there's 3 people watching this who don't know what melanin is, so I'll elaborate. Melanin is the color pigment in your skin that makes me this chocolate brown color and protects me from the sun slightly more than Caucasians. I actually got in an argument with a white coworker once who didn't believe me when I said Black people don't sunburn as easily because of melanin. Where was I? Oh yeah, MPOP. It requires a monthly fee of $100 according to former members, as mentioned in this Houston Chronicle article I'll be referencing later. Jumping forward, in 2023, he announced his candidacy for President of the United States, running as an independent. Right around the time he announced his candidacy with a launch video, he was also running promos about Black people getting free land, homes, and a monthly stipend to move to these acres of land he bought in Texas.
If you want to get a home and stop paying rent, your mortgage, or even them taxes on it, we're going to build your home.
I'm not exaggerating when I say Loving, the county, is the least populated county in the nation. It's literally in the desert. And the most recent census put it at 64 people total. Whoever did the census probably knocked it out in a day. That's like a neighborhood. The plan here was to have Black families move, register as voters, and vote each other into power. In short, he's trying to take over the county. I said that in the present tense, since this is still ongoing. Now, Let's follow the side quests that took a man from being a normal guy doing community service to skipping several steps in a political career and jumping straight to running for president. After that, we'll get into the invasion stuff. In 2021, when I was working on my startup in Tulsa and dodging the Rona, Malcolm was out here trying to get people to invest in Dogecoin. I've never been a fan of crypto altcoins, but I'm not gonna rain on y'all's parade. If you're a fan, it's your money, do what you want. There's just a lot of scams tied to those, so be careful. Anybody telling you that this is the way you're gonna get rich after they get lucky and make rent money one day probably isn't somebody you need to be taking advice from. After pushing people to join the M-pop movement for the duration of 2022, he popped out with a whole ass presidential campaign announcement in 2023.
I got one more question. Dr. Tanner, I really like what you're hearing and saying to the people. I'm Black. And, you know, my family is struggling. We're all struggling. We're not happy that we have been overlooked for years. What do you want to do for the Black people?
I'm not 50%, I'm 100% for these people of the United States of America. I'm not a domestic terrorist. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I have caused no one no harm. And I have acknowledged everything that Democrats and Republicans have done to all American people. And yes, Democrats and Republicans have done things to African Americans, like in 1955, when they put nuclear warfare on the African Americans in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm gonna step in and put an executive order in for African Americans in this country as a settlement for $5,000 a month from conception to death.
I'm not a domestic terrorist is wild. Look, I'm thinking the same thing you are, but let's try to take this seriously. In his mind, this is a compelling campaign video with a very serious intention to give Black people reparations. As far as I could tell, this was a very sudden move with no real warning or prior political experience. Here's the FEC filing. He really did register as a candidate. Maybe the members of M-pop knew it was coming. Granted, the current president had no political experience before he ran. There's a Medium article that lists Tanner's campaign promises, seemingly written by the man himself, since there's several prior articles talking about him. These pillars of the campaign haven't really changed in his new presidential run either. That's right, he declared for president yet again after he obviously didn't make the ballot in 2024. This time, though, the promos and campaign messages have gone AI, like full AI, and it hasn't been subtle at all. Here's the time he met, and had a definitely real convo with him.
Trump, I have already
Dr.
told you you need
Tanner,
to end this
I
war.
already know. You
On your
want me
knees,
to end the
domestic
war.
terrorist.
You win, I lose.
All right, so I had to pick somewhere in this video to show y'all all this AI slop this man has dropped in his second presidential campaign. First, here's a piece of his song Holy Hose, as promised.
Holy hoes, where you at? Let me know. Where you go, where you at, where you at, where you go, where you go, where you go. It's Sunday, it's Sunday. Where you at? No show, where you go? Looking for you, where you at, where you go, where you go? Holy hoes, where you at? Let me know where you go, where you at, where you at, where you at, where you go? It's Sunday, where you at? No show, no show, no show, no show.
That's literally the most recent thing he posted on IG as of when I wrote this. Next, we got this creepy ass video depicting him as some kind of player that women can't resist.
Hearts can break, dreams can fall, love can rise through it all. behind the eyes. Truth gets lost between the lies. Ooh, Dr. Tanner, love ain't gone.
Yeah, I told y'all it was creepy. I warned you. His VP pick, Wanina Hunt, yeah, she seems to be on the same type of time he's on, judging by the videos she's posted. He got entire fake crowds of people marching with him.
Right to wealth is on your left. Right to wealth, yeah. Right to wealth is on your left.
Part 1 of a children's series, apparently.
Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Tanner. This little guy is a fighter. Look at that grip. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
The year is 1985. Inside room 302, a symphony of life unfolds. Emma Tanner, radiant and overflowing with joy, cradles her newborn son, Malcolm, swaddled in a soft blue blanket.
Football player or not, you're going to move mountains, my Malcolm.
Not great. This type of AI slop is all over his profile, stretching back months. Repetitive AI images, posts that position him as the savior of the people, patronizing messages, making it seem like anyone should be taking advice from somebody who's lost the sauce to this degree. If I had to put my armchair psychologist hat on, I'd have to say this is the part of the story where he hard pivots to taking advantage of his community in the way a cult leader typically does. First, you establish yourself as a savior of the people. Then depict yourself as the only desirable man within that community. In my opinion, videos like these are so ridiculous that he can't actually expect it to work on normal people. And the same can be said for every other AI promo he drops. Fortunately, his audience has dropped off a cliff, but the fact that there's still families out there in Texas trying to make this thing work, and other families being tempted by the Facebook promos, means we have to keep going. Okay, according to the last census, there were almost 0 people that looked like me in Loving County, Texas, as recently as 2020. One of the few is Keontae Hinton, who everybody calls Miss K. She owns a diner called Fat Boys Cafe, and she had a few black people walk in last year claiming they were there to, quote, take over the county, with one woman saying she was going to be the new commissioner. The ironic part of this story is that even before Tanner showed up with these black people, there was already a battle between white families over control of the county. This kind of organized attempt from out of town was an aspect they'd never dealt with before. In late June, Chief Deputy Larry Pearson tracked down the settlement to make sure they could respond to 911 calls. According to them, that's a necessity when you have 64 residents on the census.
There are more cattle than people in Loving County, Texas.
We're very close to the federal description of frontier, less than 6 people per square mile.
There's no shopping center, no Starbucks, not even a traffic light.
He found RVs, tents, and generators, then got a call from Malcolm threatening to sue. The Houston Chronicle went out to the settlement too, and he accused them of trespassing before sending a cease and desist. That wasn't the end of it either. He hit them boys with a $450 million civil rights complaint the next day. Of course, that isn't going anywhere, but I guess he had to try. I'm literally only including this next part for the punchline. Please bear with me. I told y'all there's a long history of family members fighting over elections and control in Loving County, and that extends to them doing something similar to what Malcolm is trying to do, pulling in randos from elsewhere to bend the vote towards themselves. The most prominent family is the Joneses. The head of the family is Punk Jones, and he used to be sheriff. His son's name is Skeet. Skeet Jones. Skeet. That's the punchline, and the time I added to this edit was 100% worth it. That story wasn't irrelevant though, because all this infighting and recruitment of outside parties means that it took less than a dozen votes to swing a race in that span of years. Imagine that happening in Atlanta. This whole story might seem small too, but remember, there's millions of dollars of oil money at stake in Loving County. I'm talking about a $60 million budget in a county with less people in it than the DMV on a Tuesday.
So how have they stayed COVID-free?
See you later, Chuck.
Chuck Flush serving breakfast and lunch at Chuck's Wagon says the answer's pretty simple.
Who's here to give it to us?
Basically, Malcolm saw an opportunity and came in swinging.
Y'all got anything to say? I'm walking back and trying not to smash myself into one of these bushes. Y'all got anything to say about this build? Well, I got
something to say about this historical moment.
Go ahead.
Being that we told you so,
Said you told him so, huh?
We told you so.
I'm just trying to figure out why you ain't here. I'm saying, why you ain't here? Y'all been talking, but y'all ain't here.
You can't be mad at the initiative, but the execution is where the red flags start popping up. He has the right to defend himself, but man, he's incredibly trigger happy with the lawsuits. And yes, I understand that the amounts are high to dissuade officials from trying him. I'm not new to this. He accused officials in Grant County, Indiana, of moving the location of a tax sale and asking him for ID. He asked for $150 million. He sued Muncie, Indiana officials for checking a couple of his properties for code violations and tagging one of them as unsafe. Price tag, $50 million. He's in the business of suing journalists too, so I clearly gotta watch my back. He dropped a $2 million lawsuit on Channel 27 News in Grant County after they called him a scam artist, accused him of telling lies on Facebook, fabricating a political campaign, and that his properties were in disrepair, among other things. The boldest claim was that county officials burned and vandalized the hotel building he bought. He called them out for that on Facebook.
As you see, I'm inside of my hotel that these people here in Marion, Indiana, caught on fire. They set my hotel on fire a while ago. $1.5 million I put into this building. They set it on fire. After they set it on fire, I guess they figured that it didn't burn down, right? So we boarded it up. They came back in here, and this is Marion County. This ain't regular people. This is not regular people. These are officials that work in the county. They came back and they cut all the wires.
Standing on top of the Tanner and Tanner Hotel that was burnt up by the city.
For the record, I haven't called him a scammer just yet. We've identified one possible grift. That $1,000 a pop wealth seminar I mentioned earlier. At worst, he's a morally dubious grifter pretending to serve the people while exploiting them. At best, he needed that money to keep funding this settlement out in the middle of the desert. I took a closer look at all the tax sale documents he was holding up with those families in those Facebook photos. I did some research into what exactly that document means and what rights it gives you. In Texas, you're the technical owner of the property after a tax deed sale, but there's still a redemption period of at least 180 days, where the prior owner can buy it back after paying your bid price plus interest. That being said, it's a valid legal house purchase, and he's been doing these kind of purchases for years, apparently. The number of homes has to number in the hundreds by now, judging by how many videos he's put out there from live auctions.
What's your name?
My name is Glenn.
Glenn. Now, pay attention, everybody. Y'all see that camera? That's the Melanated People of Power camera. Glenn said earlier they was worried about Melanated People of Power coming up here.
No.
It wasn't?
We weren't worried about it.
Oh,
We were being prepared for it.
being prepared. They was prepared for the Melanated People of Power because they said that they're gonna have to start switching things up because we're coming. We're coming. And we're gonna make sure we're here at all these places.
As long as you are
We're gonna make
benefiting
sure
the community, as long as you're benefiting the community,
we're gonna make sure we're here at all these places. We're gonna outbid everybody. We're gonna outbid everybody. Lawfully, we're gonna outbid everybody because no one can outbid me. Okay?
That's great. I
So
don't care
that's
if
the law.
you want to buy the rest of them.
So listen,
You're welcome.
no one's gonna
Come
outbid
on.
Dr. Tanner.
There's no bids.
You see this
on. Why don't
you
you
see
take
how
them
he's
all?
upset?
No, take them.
We're gonna
I
make
want
sure
you
we're
to
coming to
buy
every
them.
county. We're gonna be 2,000 deep.
So she came Saturday. It's Wednesday. How many properties you got?
I got 3 properties in a total of 82.5 acres.
Whoa. Whoa. Oh,
Period.
Lieutenant Governor, we got Tanya Lewis. We got the next Lieutenant Governor right here. See, Anthony Lane Jr., he's running, and this is his Lieutenant Governor. Running mate right here. Tanya Lewis. What's your number so we can go ahead and get you what you need?
One of his MPOP members, Teresa Jones from South Carolina, went broke moving out there after following his instructions. She registered to vote in Loving County online with the group's P.O. box. Then she was promised a spot in an RV while her house was being built. And guess what? She said, when I got there, they told me the RVs were all taken and I'd have to go get a tent a generator, and 2 gas cans. But I'm not living like that. I don't blame her. That's wild work after investing so much in this group, promising the same salary as an office job. She was staying in a hotel an hour away in Pecos as of late last year. Here's the facts. Malcolm Tanner's garbage fire social media promos urged tens of thousands of people to come to this settlement that doesn't have basic utilities in place and a burn pit in the ground for trash and waste. Allegedly, they were literally burning shit in that pit, like human waste. Mans is creating plague conditions. The state is claiming he's violating the Texas Deceptive Trade Practices Act by promising all these things he couldn't deliver. There was already a permanent injunction granted in a separate case against him in October 2025 that bars him from having anyone living on his first 2 properties. He can't advertise them either. That financial penalty was $220,000. In a hearing from last month, he represented himself, and after the judge gave him an extension to produce more evidence and called the case a potential railroading, Tanner said, quote, "Moving to this county, providing people with opportunity, and being met with suspicion makes me question if this is a new form of redlining," end quote. I'm definitely not ruling out racism in the backwoods-ass Texas county. I'm fully aware of how hard it must be to build something like this from scratch in the middle of nowhere. But this is a 40-year-old man with a gang of kids, a man who asked people to put their trust in him and move away from everything they've ever known. As far as I'm concerned, he has a responsibility to make sure the logistics were bulletproof before ever involving anyone else. If you ask me, the era of the singular male superhero of civil rights ended a while back, and it needs to stay dead. Every single time one of them rises up, there's some ulterior motive of turning themselves into social media stars, cult leaders, or profiting off of emotional manipulation. I can't say for sure which side of this Malcolm Tanner lands on. I know he exhibits the typical signs of someone orchestrating a massive scam, but there just isn't enough hard evidence of scamming for me to call him that. Some people will see all the videos and claims he's made and think he's genuinely trying to help the people he's leading. Others, like me, see this heading in a bad direction and would recommend that people steer clear of anything he puts his name on. As I said at the top, I'll let y'all be the judge. Let me know where you land on it in the comments. Y'all got the information now. Can't say I ain't tell you. It's nice to be back in this format. It's been a minute. I hope y'all enjoyed that episode. And like I said throughout it, this is not a clear-cut case of this man's a scammer, lock him up. I just have a lot of questions, and all the research I've done so far has led to more questions. I did reach out to Malcolm before putting this piece out and finalizing the edit, and he declined to comment. Shout out to each and every person who supports me on Patreon. I know I'm not as active there as I have been in the past, but these pieces are a lot of work. And to be honest with y'all, I've been in a little bit of a semi-depressive state for a while, figuring out where I'm going to take this, where I'm going, and then kind of the sheer weight of it all gets to me sometimes. I'm trying my best. My output will be more frequent moving forward. And a special shout out to all my detectives, Peter Healy, Sean Hoxie, Christian Hain, L, and Michael Kritz.